interoperability and interconnection, but in a seamless way. So as a fan, I don't even have to worry about cross blockchain layer 1, 2, 3. And there's a lot of like things that we are in the making with Everdome, and it's how we create spaces for their community, our communities, and the fans to enjoy. Only 1% of the Formula One fan are going to the track. So how do you create experiences where fan gets together? And that's some of the motto that we have with Everdome.
Guillaume, welcome to Pioneering in the Metaverse with Everdome here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Samir. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm very excited for this conversation. I have a lot of questions for you. You're the head of merchandising, licensing, esports, and Web3 at Alpine, one of the premier global brands. It's a big weekend for you guys. F1 wise right now. Monza is going on at the time that we're recording this, but thank you for joining me. And I think the very first thing I want to just kick right off with is why Web3?
Wow, that's a big question. Why Web3? Why not? Why not Web3? This is the next iteration of next evolution of the web. To start with, so it's technology. So as a Formula One team, as an innovative brand evolving in the world of automotive as well, it's key for us to be on board with all new technology and all massive changes. It's like saying why AI or why Bitcoin or why new technologies. When the answer is like, are we making a mistake by not being involved in Web3? Or are we making a mistake not looking at AI or not looking at innovation? And I think as a tech brand, if we're not looking at that, we're making mistakes. So the question is like, why not more with 3, let's say? But no, big fan of Web3 myself, big fan of new technologies. I've been back in 2015, 2016, mining Ethereum on my gaming computer. Always keen on, new games, new NFTs myself. So, it happened to be a massive opportunity with Formula One because we got the same kind of people that watch Formula One love technology, and people that are in Web3 love technology too, and tends to love cars as well. So we're mixing very well, and there's a lot of projects, and I can't wait to tell more about it today.
No, amazing. But take me back to the very beginning in terms of the conversations at Alpine when you said, hey, we need to start looking at this Web3 space, because I imagine there's going to be people who will hear that and go, I have no idea what this is. Is this even real? And you're coming to me and you're telling me that you want to start doing something like this. Maybe start with, how did you bring the team on board to participating in the Web3 space, and sort of how that evolved over time?
So that's a really good question. So how did we get like into Web3? So I was myself already like playing some play to earn games, but some really deep, weird games like you're like a cowboy and you have to farm, and it takes days and days and days to get resources, and you get like some token out of it, and then you can trade that and make a little bit of money. But we're talking like $10 like, and for like 10 hours of gaming, like absolute waste of time, but that was really fun. And that was a time where I think that was the beginning of OpenSea. So we were not absolutely the first one to get involved. And I discovered with a couple of friends, I think, a game from Animoca Brands called Rave Racing. And that's basically a game where you buy your car and you race that specific car in a very arcadey game with a controller or with the arrows on your keyboard. And if you do the fastest lap, or if you're like a top 10 or something like this, you get some crypto basically. And every day there's like a time trail with that car, and you buy cars for like $3 and like you trade them after, like you can, sublet your car somehow so other people can hire your car, race with your car, and so on and so forth. So, and we saw, massive projects with artists, selling like just JPEGs, and other for a lot of money, other speculations and so on. And so some of my friends said, why don't we look at doing something with Alpine? And at the time, there was an agency with a guy called Arsenic Kostromin. It's a former designer of cars within the group Renault, within Koenigsegg as well. And he had made that fantastic car called the A110 GTA. And so it's a variation of our A110 car. And we said, look, let's do something. We obviously a Web2 brand. We don't want to go in Web3 and say, hey, let's do something. Let's do some quick cash. How do we do something that speaks to the community? How do we do something that brings value? Because at the time you had all these projects. Let's do NFTs and give like half of the money to charity. Yeah, well, like all sorts of like stuff like that. So we're like, okay, we're not legit in the space. Obviously we make cars and we make Formula One cars, but how can we come and be legit a bit and do something? So we said, we went to Animal Capital and said, look, we want to do something, and we don't know exactly what exactly, but we want to do something with you because you're legit in the space. You got a game. Let's do something. And we contacted Arseny, who had just launched a massive video of like that like car that looks fantastic, and we worked with them and did like a project around. Okay, we launched 5 cars. There will be legendary cars in the rave racing game. These like are unique concept cars. We're collaborating with an independent artist. We're collaborating with a gaming studio known in the space. Let's do that for fun. Let's see what's the results, and let's put a bit of like PR and campaign through that to raise awareness around NFTs. And at the time, Alpine like management was looking at us. Okay, let's let them play with their gaming thing. Let them do their things. And yeah, we launched it on auction, and the 5 cars went for $300,000 worth of token at the time. So we went back to our management and say, you remember these little cars? We sold them for almost as much as your real cars. And that's when like it all started. There's always like that spike of like money interest from the company, but also like how did we do to maximize it at the beginning. So, and we've reached out to the holders of these cars, and some of them told us, well, we made our money back. We traded the car. Some people hired the car. We made some money back. So super interesting. And that's how we started. So not speculating on art or stuff like this. There was a proper utility to that NFT. So that's how Alpine started, like more or less in the Web3 space.
Wow. I can only imagine how fun it must have been for you to walk into that meeting and say, hey, by the way, $300,000 is what we sold the cars for.
Yeah, and we share that, with the artist and the studio. But that was crazy. That was the time where there was another game called F1 Delta Time.
Mm-hmm.
So Animal Carbon had like a license with Formula One, and they were selling like F1 cars for $100,000. Like there was like some crazy prices. I think there was a lot of speculations back then. I don't think like this sort of things could happen today like this. But I think it was fun. It was really fun to do. Yeah.
So where is Alpine today when it comes to the Web3 space?
I think we had a couple of experience after that. We've had been in conversation with Binance for many months just after the NFT launch, and we were looking at how can we improve our fan engagement, what are the technology out there, and that's how we met with Binance and put that whole partnership together. So we launched our fan token, Alpine fan token. That spiked completely very well because for a while we were like top one fan token in sports in general in the world, with around $35 million market cap, and
Wow, congrats on that.
that was good fun. We did, thank you. We did some games, like there was
Yeah.
some quiz. The more fan token you hold, the more like voice you have in all of this kind of like quiz. You could participate in the life of the team. You could trade a token. You could stack the token. We've done some couple of like NFT collection as well, more accessible this time, under like the form of like mystery box.
Hmm.
So you can buy that mystery box for three Alpine token. At the time that was like $15. So I got a lot of people within Alpine that said like, "Well, we bought our first NFTs. We bought like this mystery box. It gives you one of the posters of the team from that year, and you can collect all the posters. And if you collect all these posters, you can stack them on a page on Binance, and it works for you and make some Alpine tokens back for you.
Hmm.
So there was all like economy behind and so on. So and that worked very, very, very well. There was some challenges where you could level up as a fan depending on the action you do with the team. So that worked very well. And more recently, we've launched a partnership with ApeCoin.
Hmm.
So ApeCoin, with they link to the Bored Ape Yacht Club, so that very famous NFT collections with the monkeys,
Yep.
or the ape, sorry, different faces, the PFP,
I
and
think a few
they
people would
launched.
be upset if you called them monkeys.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I said sorry. No, like collections of apes, like fantastic art, and they they launched their coin, which is actually a different entity as well.
Hmm.
And they're always looking into add utilities for their holders. So we've done that partnership with them. Bringing the Formula One space, like bringing like hospitality experiences for their holders as well. So we're activating in the space with them a bit too, and then we've launched a couple of like partnership with Metaverse and studios, including one that we're really proud about is the partnership that we have with Everdome, and there's a lot of like things that we are in the making with Everdome, and it's how we create spaces for their community, our work communities, and the fans to enjoy from all over the world. Only 1% of the Formula One fan are going to the track. So how do you create experiences where fan gets together? And that's some of the motto that we have with Everdome. Yeah.
No, and that's fantastic. Thank you so much for saying those kind words. You lined it up perfectly for me because my next segue was going to be into the fan experience. Because to your point, F1 races, even the ones that I've been to, there's only so much physical space. And obviously, this is a global sport. There's millions of fans globally, everywhere, tuning in. Every time there's a race, in between races, people just want more. How are you seeing the interconnectedness between the racing element and then the experience piece utilizing Web3 and the metaverse?
There's so many touch points. So that's why like I think there's a lot of like Web3 brands within the Formula One space. As you said, it's global. We're racing every week or every 2 weeks in a different country, in a different continent, in another part of the world. And every time we race in somewhere, it's the biggest event in the country, sporting event at least. And so how do we connect all the fans together? They speak different languages and so on. They are on different social media and so on. So Web3 brings a lot of that. It's there's the opportunity of like digital rewards through NFTs. There's like fan tokens. There are metaverse. There are gaming. Gaming is massive for the sports. So much that we created esports series as well with sim racing, and where like you have drivers that's their job. Like to race four teams virtually. So yeah, there's a lot with Web3, and I don't think we've explored everything yet. Metaverse is one of them where fans can be with each others in a virtual world, experience some things from the team. VR is one of these. You have, gaming, gamification of the fan experience. You have everything linked to NFC tags, where you can connect physical objects with digital rewards and digital experience. And the opposite is also true. You can attach experiences and physical rewards to digital actions and digital ownership. So there's so much, and I think there's not enough that's been explored yet. So I think we're just at the beginning, and that's so interesting because I think at some point Web3 was trying to find itself use cases outside of just trading crypto
Hmm.
and the basic usage of Bitcoin, for instance. And I think gaming is one of them, but there's all this technology that's applied directly to the sport. And it's very seamless, and we're building all of these use cases. And that's great, but there's still a lot to be done, I think.
Well, what are you most excited for? What hasn't happened yet that you're looking at right now and saying, I can't wait until we can start doing these kinds of experiences?
There's one that comes to mind directly, and I think a lot of people are talking about it right now, is interoperability. So it's
Mm.
the I can go to Everdome because I bought my cap at the track, and I can wear the same cap when I go on the Everdome Metaverse. But then that cap would give me points on a sort of racing game
Mm.
because I got that cap and I got the NFT links to that cap. I go to my racing game, Formula One, and because I bought that cap, I get some perks, some coins, and then I can use again that digital cap to get a discount on buying other caps, or then I can use that cap to in another metaverse, for instance. And so interoperability and interconnection,
Hmm.
but in a seamless way. So as a fan, I don't even have to worry about cross blockchain layer one, two, three. I just need to bring my profile, and my profile is the same everywhere, and my wallet is similar everywhere. There's no
Yeah.
fees, and everything is seamless. And I think seamless interoperability will be massive, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that that will help integrate users and fans who may not necessarily be interested in the technology itself from the back end, the stuff that you and I, for example, will get excited about. They just go, I just want to be able to do the experience. How and why it works the way it does doesn't matter to me. I just want the experience. When someone goes and
Yeah,
buys a VR headset, they don't really care. Some people just don't care about it, the tech that went into it. They just want to know, does it work? And so I
yeah,
think that it's going to reduce the barrier of entry for a lot of fans, particularly in the F1 space, some of whom are part of an older generation who are not, sitting around reading up on crypto and use cases and all of those things.
exactly. And if you bring these people, you're gonna bring managements of companies and
Hmm.
CTOs. I mean, CTOs will be excited by the back end, but CMOs and CEOs and all of this kind of thing. So, and we live in a world where everything can be instant.
Yeah.
There's TikTok and there's videos and it's like 7 second attention span or something like this. So if you have to create a wallet, change your coins to move your NFT from wallet A,
Yeah.
B, depending on the blockchain,
Watch a
you're losing
YouTube video
people.
to learn the steps.
Yeah, yeah, and end up losing $50 in
Yeah.
transaction fees, like somewhere. So it's part of the fun for people that love Web3. But I think it's like the ticking point for
Yeah.
uh, the rest of the world, I would say.
Absolutely. And it's about finding the balance. You made the point of being able to integrate, the CTOs will be excited, but it's an opportunity to bring in the CMOs and the CEOs and people from the marketing teams. I'm curious from your perspective. Obviously, Formula One teams rely heavily on sponsors. It's why the cars have all sorts of logos on them. The drivers, sorry, are sponsored. Can we call drivers players, by the way?
Some of them are players. Max Verstappen is a player, massive
Okay, yeah.
gamer as well. Yeah.
So, you know, brand partnerships is extremely important. How do you see Web3? I guess there's two questions here. Number one, how do you see Web3 giving you access to additional streams of revenue? Number two, do you see a scenario where you can now offer the brands that you partner with an additional touch point, an additional layer of, exposure?
100%. I think like it's a really good question. Some people like at the time where FTX was sponsoring Mercedes, some people were even like comparing tobacco back in the days in Formula One to crypto in Formula One. Obviously, it's not the same thing,
Hmm.
but there's been like OpenSea was partnered with I think Williams. There was Fluco Coin or something like this. Some meme
Loki.
coins partnering
Yeah.
Floki Coin. Yeah, sorry. There was a lot of Web3 brand going into Formula One for sponsorship. Tezos was with McLaren and Red
Hmm.
Bull. Sui with Red Bull Racing. So the F1 team started to say, all right, how do we segment the space? Do you have your exchange platforms? You have your blockchain partners, you have your metaverse partners, and they started to segment that. And today, it's one of the top like category of sponsors in Formula One. So it's massive income, not only in terms of logos, but also in terms of use case that these brands can bring in terms of tech and fan engagement to teams. So it is really interesting. So one is yes, it's a massive source of income, and by developing your tech and your Web3 activities, you may be more attractive to the next big blockchain that is looking at sponsoring a team in Formula One. So if your Web3 activities are better, if you understand better the tech, ultimately your conversation with that company will be more interesting because they will say, all right, they're not just looking at interesting by my dollars or by my logo on the car. They're also interested in how I can add, utility to their
Yeah.
team and bring performance, because the more fun you have, the more money you generate, the more money you can infuse in the team at the end of the day, and the faster your car gets as well. So obviously, that's what we choose to do. There's some companies that now sponsoring some teams that are very disappointed because there's good sponsorship value, but there's no tech elements to it.
Yeah.
So from like the Web3 perspective, some of their holders or community might be like, right, it's fine, but it's just a billboard, basically.
Yeah, it's sponsorship in dollars, not in
Yeah.
utility, to your point. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's how you go to the next step and you get that competitive advantage compared to Mercedes, the other team, Red Bull, and so on. So that's what we were trying to do, and to attract the better project as well, not just the one that wants a quick advertising solution. So how do we bring the really like the good projects, basically?
Hmm.
And so that's the first part. And then to your second question, what it can bring to fan and fan engagement, or what it brings Web3 partners to other sponsors. And some of the projects that we're working on is like that platform of fan engagement, and as a fan, that platform can track my actions. So if I buy caps, I get points. If I go to the Formula One factory to visit the Formula One factory, I scan, I get a POAP NFT, I get points.
Mm.
I retweet or follow the team or like some post, I get points. I buy some NFT, I get points. I play on Everdome, I get points. I register my wallet and do my Know Your Customer form on Binance, I get points. I hold a Bored Ape NFT, I get points. And so I level up as a fan, and I can level up also on answering quiz about my experience with Qatar Airways, which is also a sponsor of the Formula One team. So
Mm.
I want to share some information about like my travel habits. And usually fans of Formula One are very
They
uh,
travel.
very well traveled, let's
Yes.
say. And so I would want to answer that quiz, and then that gives some critical information to Qatar Airways. They can better target the fans. They get better return on investment on their sponsorship. And that's
Mm.
that whole experience. And then you get like that metaverse collaborations. Everdome did an event with us, Pierre Gasly,
Hmm.
and Binance last year,
Yep.
and that was great collaboration between what can Web3 and the metaverse side of Web3 can offer to other sponsors as well.
Yeah.
And so that's the sort of thing. So experiences, better return on investment, data, I think the and gamification, these kind of things are really powerful with Web3 partners.
That was probably one of the best explanations, I think, in a very simple way for anyone who listens to this, watches this, for them to really piece together and understand the different layers, almost like a web of different ways that one small partnership could result in so many different areas and touch points for fans, for partners, for sponsors. Everyone becomes part of that equation. I'm curious from where you're sitting, looking at the growth of Web3. Alpine has been a very active participant in this space. And by this conversation so far, I can tell that it's not, to your point, hey, sure, we'll take your money and it's just a billboard. It's we actually want to be a part of the space. Do you, where do you see the metaverse playing a role, specifically the metaverse, in the next step, the next phase?
It's a very interesting question. When I was a teenager, I played a lot of World of Warcraft.
Hmm.
This MMORPG, fantastic game, and I spent a lot of time there, making friends,
Yep.
playing with my friends, meeting new people. I remember I had to join that guild, and when joining the guild, I had to send a picture of myself, full description, my hobbies and stuff. And then the guild would decide if I could join to just to play with them, just to do like dungeons and stuff. And that's fantastic, first thing of the metaverse that was back then. And now there's an opportunity, with like Unreal Engine and like the level of graphics that we get today. There's an opportunity to replicate that, but not only for nerds, for everyday person.
Yep.
And with VR, AR becoming more and more like part of our daily lives within the Apple Vision Pro or something like this. Whereas, we spending our time communicating with people through Zoom, Teams, and so on. And I think the next step is a more immersive way of doing this. And that might be through VR, that might be through the metaverse. Uh, I've been talking to one of our agency we work with on social media. They call Hot Drop, and they help us on our sim racing accounts and sometimes on Discord too. And they have no HQ. Their HQ is actually in the metaverse, and that's how they interact. And they have like this little kind of Pokemon style thing where the employees like are all connected, and you see them appearing like in a game, and they can move like to the office of somebody else. And
Yeah.
as soon as you get like close to them, you can speak to them with the mic.
Yep.
Groundbreaking for me, but like very, very good example on how the metaverse can completely change everything. So not only meet and greet with fans, but you can do so much more. You can create elements of like factory visits for Formula One. I'm coming back to Formula One, but you can like visit the factory. You can learn about engineering. You can learn about design, about
Mhm.
technology. You can meet your favorite drivers online. There's no more difficulty for the driver. The driver can hop off the simulators at the factory, put the Apple Vision Pro or whatever VR solutions we would have in the future, hop in and meet the fan directly online and for an hour and then be back home. Like that would help so much with the life of the drivers, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many things. I think we could talk about it for hours, but
Yeah, we could.
I just believe that that will be continuing to be massive. And again, like same issues. We need this to be seamless.
Yeah.
We need this to be on something that everybody have, and either that's an iPhone or either that you wouldn't need like the powerful gaming computer to power this.
Yeah.
Whether it is like cloud streaming or like
You need a lot of
you
power
know
for Unreal Engine 5.
yeah, exactly. So maybe there's some. It's like how do we make seamless? It's
Yeah.
seamless for everybody
And
to.
that's the part where the physical hardware pieces
Yeah,
are always slower to catch up to the software, right?
exactly.
So building out the metaverse is going to happen faster software wise, and then hardware will slowly catch up to the point where then it's just basically like your iPhone, right?
Yeah.
Everything is on a very compact piece of device that you can now use. Um, when you talked about making the life of the drivers easier, it got me thinking about how do you see the metaverse specifically being used to support the growth of the team, not necessarily from a fan perspective, but from an actual development perspective of the team, the car, the driver, just being able to
Yeah.
seamlessly integrate into the metaverse, test out a new feature on a vehicle without having to maybe spend as much real world dollars where you can test things a little bit more seamless. I'm just curious because we've been talking more and more about use cases on this podcast. And one of them that came up, for example, is you can train a new set of, graduates on who want to become doctors on a surgical procedure a lot more times with a lot more different reps when you're
Mm.
doing it in a virtual environment. So I'm curious, what would be the similar thing for Formula One?
I think like very easily like by regulations we can only bring 60 mechanics and engineers to the track.
Hmm.
So we only have like 60 people traveling to. It does seem a lot, but it's not a lot. So 60 people traveling to every Grand Prix, engineers and mechanics, and with Metaverse we could in real time sort of like have the other engineers, so the hundreds of engineers at the factory, being able to see what is happening directly in the garage
Mm.
and in every part of the track. So we're sort of doing it already like with sensors on the car that sends information, but can we have a visual and can we modify things from a distance?
Mm.
Because that would help like productivity. That's the first one. The second one would be around when is basically what we do between two seasons is that during winter, all the designers are working on the design of the parts of the car, and then it's tested virtually, and we produce the parts only the last week or the last 2 weeks before the first race. So the car is actually being built later, but we
Yeah.
maximize that time of design. And then how do we train the mechanics? How do we train the engineer? How do we test things? How do we move things like quickly, and visually for the training of the engineers and the mechanics and so on before that car is produced? And that could be something done in the metaverse too. And a third thing that we have is that we have two factories, one in England and one in France. The one in France produces the engine, and the one in England produces the rest of the car. But the two need to come together. But
Yeah.
obviously, people producing each of these are on different locations, on different countries. How do we make sure that all of these people interact in a seamless way without having to take the Eurostar? Say,
And it's something that you can't do over a Google Meet, a Zoom. There's a limitation to something like that, but the ability to seamlessly integrate in an environment where you can walk around a virtual car and go, there's something that we need to tweak here, here, and here. I think to
yeah.
your point is a game changer.
And there's a barrier of language as well. So if you can show things at
Yeah,
the same time, I know these people are very, very intelligent people, but they could use some help sometimes, and
sure.
communications, is key. And so if we can import that with diagrams or real car appearing, and you can take a CATIA file, transform it in Unreal Engine file in 2 seconds, like put it there, then you could start working, in a very efficient way. We're not there yet, but I think it could be some of the solutions that Metaverse proposes as well.
You're obviously well versed in the Web3 space. You know your stuff. From staking to playing play to earn games. So you know the space well. When you say we're not there yet, how far do you think we are? How many months, years, ballpark? What are you thinking in terms of time-wise before we're at that point where we have a seamless, integrative environment that you can basically roll out in a professional setting for your mechanics, your drivers, your engineers?
It's a really good question. I don't think I have like a precise answer, and I would love to.
I want the
I've,
exact date and time.
no, I wish we would have it already, because that would be really fun. I don't think we're far off this because you have like wonderful companies, tech companies already on it. But I think I hope like we would be on it already in the next 5 years by the end of the decade,
Yeah.
like being able to do that in a very good way. So it's not like, like, so it's like Zoom or Teams basically. So it's the thing that everybody have. You open the software that runs seamlessly. You don't need like the biggest computer to run anything. Um, and that's visually without friction, without lags, and anybody can access it. I think next 5, give it until the end of the decade, and we would have our first few points
Yeah.
of interaction.
I'd agree with that. I really do believe that given, the metaverse was the hype thing when Facebook changed its name to Meta, suddenly
Yeah,
the awareness level, you know, call it good, call it bad, regardless, the awareness level around the metaverse and virtual environments increased exponentially when that happened.
yeah,
And now with the integration of artificial intelligence and the movement towards integrating more and more AI, and it's only getting smarter and better, I think that that's only going to amplify and speed up that process. And so what may have taken another decade or so, I would agree with you, would probably be perhaps by the end of like by 2030, we could be looking at this being a lot more seamless and integrative. Um, I want to ask you one more question before we wrap this up. And I
it's all
mean,
right.
we can have this conversation for hours, but Everdome and Alpine are going to be doing some really cool stuff together. I'm curious from where you're sitting, what attracts Alpine to a project like Everdome?
Yeah, it's a good question. So Everdome is this like kind of big metaverse project, very realistic, very futuristic. Um, and first it's beautiful. So one of the points where you go to metaverse is, am I going to a Minecraft type environment, or am I going to a high-end luxury environment? And that's 2 points like that are very valid. So when looking at it, I know it seems very simple for the Web3 audience, but for the global audience, you want them to look at this and be, wow, that's
Mhm.
beautiful. So that's the first point. Everdome developed like an environment that is like beautiful, realistic, Unreal Engine 5. And the second point is their understanding of motorsports, the understanding of Formula One, and the understanding of our fan engagement, like sort of challenges. And their third point was their closeness to some of our partners, including Binance, and to their point to how that adds utility to our partners. And then I would say their willingness to explore, innovate, and go beyond in creating things with Alpine. I think that's one of the key points. And it's a project that's been around for a while as well.
Hmm.
So it's not something pump and dump like kind of like project, which we've seen a lot of.
Quite a
So
bit of, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So we don't want to. We also have a responsibility as like a large IP team. We got a large following. We don't want to lead them onto something that is going to cause them harm, basically.
Yeah.
So we want to kind of like highlight the good project to our fans, our community, and tell them like go there because these guys know what they're doing, basically. And yeah, this is the opportunity. These guys want always to create cool stuff and innovate and do cool things, so they can challenge us as well. And so that's all of this together creates a good partnership and a good alignment
Yeah.
for all of us.
Amazing. Guillaume, thank you so much, my friend, for your time. You
Thank you,
do
Samir.
incredible work. Best of luck with the rest of the season. And I'm really excited to see where the Everdome and Alpine partnership go because I really do believe that this will be an opportunity to your point, get creative and have a lot of fun providing and creating experiences for the fans who are craving more Alpine. And we're just happy that we could be a part of that in some way. And so thank you so much again for your time. And I wish you the best of luck. And maybe we could do a part two at some point as well.
With pleasure, Samir, and to your audience there, go check Everdome. Like it's a good place to be. They have like a wonderful website, so have a look at it. Jump on it, create your space, have fun, and yeah, we're happy to jump on the next one, Samir.
Amazing. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, watching.